I guess I should ask, is anybody opposed to having this thing recorded? No? Okay,
No.
great.
I
Okay,
think they're also given, I noticed they're given the option to leave if they didn't want to, but
no, we don't want them leaving.
I'll see what the. Okay.
All right,
well,
go ahead, Eric, you're up.
Yep, right. I'll let it rip. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'm Eric Fosta, Business Development Manager for NHMEP, New Hampshire Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Setting Your Company Up for Sales Success in 2023. And just to let everyone know, we are recording today's session. Okay, next slide, Ken. Great. So, NHMEP offers services in 3 key areas. Product development, that's where we work closely with the UNH College of Engineering for designing, developing, and manufacturing new products. We improve manufacturing processes by offering training on Lean, Six Sigma, ISO, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, and plant layout, just to name a few. And we also help manufacturers reposition their business model to find new clients with our business growth training in the areas of sales and marketing. So this slide shows you the National MEP Network. New Hampshire Manufacturing Extension Partnership is one of the nationwide system of MEP centers linked to the U.S. Department of Commerce and NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. There's at least one MEP center located in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And we're able to leverage a vast array of public and private resources and services that are available to every manufacturing enterprise in the state. Our mission's simple. We help manufacturers in New Hampshire improve their productivity, compete globally, and keep jobs in the state. And, as in this slide, you can see we've worked with over 700 New Hampshire manufacturers and touched over 11,000 employees who have gone through our manufacturing training programs. So this is the 3 areas I spoke a little about earlier, a little more detail. The first is operational excellence. That's where we offer training on Lean, Six Sigma, plant layout, blueprint reading, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, and lean, green, and energy services. Our second area is workforce development. We're part of the Sector Partnership Initiative in New Hampshire. That's where we work with middle schools, high schools, community colleges, and manufacturers to build the future workforce of New Hampshire. Every year we put on Manufacturing Month, and during Manufacturing Month, we coordinate school visits to manufacturers in the hope that some students will make manufacturing a career. Last year, we had 1,605 student visits to 45 New Hampshire manufacturers. And keeping with workforce development, we also provide leadership training, team building and problem solving, technical skills training, and training within industry. The third area is innovative growth strategies. That's where we offer the sales training collaborative program, which you'll hear about a little later, a custom sales training program as well, and the marketing strategies collaborative program. We also offer quality management systems training, which includes the various ISO standards, food safety training, as well as cybersecurity assessments and implementation for manufacturing contractors and subcontractors who perform work for the Department of Defense, and technology-driven market intelligence, or TDMI. And next slide. So this shows NHMEP's impact. After our clients have gone through one of our training programs, NIST MEP, where we receive partial funding, requires us to have them fill out an impact survey. So as you can see from this slide, it shows you the compiled economic impact we've received from our clients in the last 5 years. And I think that's it, Ken, right? So now I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter. You're going to hear from Ken Chio, president of our sales coach. Ken created our sales coach to help companies develop a sales strategy and execute a sales process that makes sense for their business and provides coaching and training that ensures their success. So now I turn things over to Ken.
Great, thank you, Eric. Yeah, pretty impressive what the MEPs have accomplished in really important work for quite some time. As Eric said, we're covering setting your company up for a sales success in 2023. And the way I like to do these things is, to make sure that, you can interrupt me. If you don't have a lot of noise in the background, feel free to keep yourself unmuted or unmute at will, because we're going to be going from subject to subject, a lot of different topics. And, if you have a question that pops in your head when we're discussing anything, then you'll forget because we'll be on to a different subject. So I encourage you, let's not wait till the end because, you may not get a chance to ask the questions. If there's something that you're thinking about, go ahead and interrupt me. Or there's a long list of people. I can't really see everybody. So raising your hand is not going to work. Just go ahead and interrupt me, and I'm happy to address. I'd rather just talk about what's going to really help you guys move the needle or have a more strategic strategy for this year than be talking about what I have to say. Okay. So what we're going to cover today is really, how do you really set your sales team up for real expectations for market penetration? There's quite often, I always work with my clients through what their goals are. And, when I ask, okay, what are your expectations for 2023? They might say, well, based on our current reality or what we did last year, we're expecting maybe a 5% growth or 20% growth. It's not really specific to the markets that you have the opportunity to penetrate, or how many new customers can you really acquire that you weren't doing business with before, or where is your best opportunity for growth within your existing customer base, which customers and how much more business, or which products are you poised to get more penetration with, and who are those targets? So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. And that's the first step, is really, who are the right targets for you and why? And then what are you doing to prospect to bring in new customers, if that's what you need? Okay. Because I really do find that, quite often, manufacturers are really reactive and dealing with what comes in or existing customer needs. And there's not a lot of proactive prospecting that goes on in some cases. And then, if you do want to bring in net new customers, what is that? How are you going to get people on the phone? It's more and more difficult today. And then what is your formula? Okay, so what is, based on your target market strategy, what is it that, how many customers are you expecting to bring in? And what's the activity that needs to be done by whom in order to play that formula out? And then how do you track things to make sure that that formula is actually playing out, or what the actual formula is, and then do you need to make adjustments? And then sticking with the plan to make sure that it does happen, or making adjustments as needed. Okay, so these are all the things we're going to talk about today, and it's, like I said, it's a pretty extensive list. We may not get through everything. That's okay. Like I said, I'd rather be talking about what can you do today to really move the needle and be more strategic. Okay. So sometimes really it's there's a redesign or a more specific strategy that needs to be considered, and then maybe some changes to your sales structure or design or how you go to market. And that really happens in steps. Okay, the first step really is looking at who are your customers and what segments really present you with the best opportunity for growth, and why. Okay, and And so a lot of you have, you know, at least on your websites, I went to all your websites, and, you know, and this is typical with manufacturing, particularly with contract manufacturing, or you're making a component that goes into other products. You have a wide variety of types of customers that that you can that you address, like the critical filtration folks, for example, or the geophysical folks, or the circuit NTAB. There's a tremendous variety of customer types of customers that you sell to, and you know, if you have a huge sales force that can adequately address all those different types of customers in the areas where they are, great. But sometimes, you know, there's a limit to what your what your resources are. So you need to really figure out, okay, where's our best opportunity and how are we going to address it? The same thing applies to products. So, you know, there's you know, depends on what products. Sometimes there's a variety of products you have, and then, so there's different customers that would need those products more than others. And so that's also part of the strategic planning. Okay, so who are the customers where you have the best opportunity, and what are the products that you're going to be selling to them in each customer segment? Once we figure that out, okay, then what are the channels that we're going to go through to really get conversations with these people? You know, and is it, you know, what is the marketing plan and what's your prospecting plan? Because those aren't the same thing, but they need to be working together. And then what's the sales process? What are those activities that need to happen based on, you know, how you develop those leads through marketing and prospecting, and then the sales process to close the deal, and who's doing what. Okay, we're going to get a little bit into sales force structure, because once you've got your sales strategy and your go-to-market plan, now it's like, okay, how many people, who's going to do what? And, you know, some of you do have specialists and people that are technical that can come in and support the sales team, or are really handling specific applications from a, you know, based on the technical nature of some of the products. But what really are the roles of people need to fill, and where are the gaps in those roles, and then how are they going to, you know, who's managing them, and how are you monitoring and making adjustments. So if we have time, we're going to get more into that. And, you know, we won't really have time to get into the sales, how you size your sales force. How do you know how many people you need and what roles, and then what responsibilities, what activities will they be doing? How do you assign different customers to the different people in the sales team? And how do you really make sure that you're adequately covering the geographic reach that you need to, or the specific, you know, customer, you know, targets. So we wouldn't have time to get into that, but these are things that we do cover in the collaboration that that Eric was talking about. Okay, any questions about this so far? Okay. All right, so today really what we're going to get into is, all right, how do you really what's the evaluation that you go through to define your market segments that you're going to focus on? Then what's your marketing plan, your prospecting plan? What do you need to track to know that your formula is really playing out? And then if we have time, we can get into sales process. Okay, so the first thing really is marketing, prospecting, and sales. These are not the same thing, but today they're really closely related, and you have to have plans in all three areas. So marketing is generating awareness. It's what you do with the awareness that's really important. And you know, today things are so, you know, when I started in sales, nobody had a computer, believe it or not. there was nobody really had a computer on their desk. I went out and bought one, a dot matrix with a dot matrix printer and a floppy drive. The reason I bring that up is people would answer the phone when I called them, because that's how people got their information. They got their information from salespeople like me. That's how they found out what other people were doing, their competitors were doing, what products were out there. And so it was a lot easier to get decision makers on the phone. Google was formed 11 years later. 11 years. There was no internet. Al Gore was a congressman or something. He hadn't got around to inventing the internet yet. And so today, with marketing automation, with social media, and all the tools that it seems like on a monthly basis there's something new, we're now all programmed to do our own research. And so people want to engage with salespeople on their own agenda, okay? And so how are you inserting yourself into that process, their process, at the right time? Well, that happens with prospecting. Prospecting is proactively working active channels to get to the point where somebody's sitting down with you to figure out, and they're qualified to find out if they want to buy. Selling doesn't start until that's happened. And some salespeople don't realize that, and so, these things really need to work together, because like I said, people are really doing their own research on their own time. What that means is that as they come closer to a buying decision, they may be less likely to buy from you. When, I don't know if any of you read the Challenger sale, that the corporate executive board was really a market research company that wrote the book. And one of the things they discovered, it was through research, that 57% of the buying decisions made before a salesperson gets involved. So how are you going to know what research they're doing? And their book was like, well, listen, you need to be a challenger. You need to come in there and challenge what they're doing and tell them what they're not doing. And so how are you going to know that? Well, you need market research. Oh, go figure. We have market research for you, right? It was brilliant. But this is really true, because, if people are cruising around in status quo, they're not looking to make a change, right? What's the close rate when they're in status quo? Anybody? If somebody's in status quo.
Probably zero.
Yeah, by definition, it's zero, right? Because, that a lot of times really is your biggest competition, is are they going to change, right? And they need to be really thinking about, okay, do we have an issue here? Do we want to make a change? And if we did make a change, what would be our objectives? And what would be our strategy? And then they start to explore options and search for alternatives. Then they need to justify, after they do their research, making a change, and hopefully you become the new status quo, okay? And so the couple of problems with this, that once they've decided they're going to explore options, a lot of times the decision maker tags a lower level person to go and do that. So if you're catching people when they're searching for alternatives, I just did a annual kickoff for a client that's a software company, and they do customer data acquisition and management, and help companies utilize that data for different purposes, primarily marketing. And a lot of these big, enterprise level corporations do RFPs. And so these guys are the little guy on the block competing with little companies like Adobe, Salesforce, Oracle, right? And so these CMOs will go out to bid. And the problem is that, there's lower level people that are executing that process. And, what we're working on is how can we get to the decision makers when they're trying to understand the issues in the first place? Because when they're doing that, that evaluation requires their own research. And so if you catch them when they're trying to establish objectives, they're going to want to talk to you, because that they're gathering in the information gathering stage. But when you catch them when they're searching for alternatives, according to Aberdeen Group, that's like a 16% close rate. Okay. Well, when you catch them here, according to Forrester, that's more like a 74% close rate. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, bad experience causes people to go and make a change. But the problem with bad experience is you don't know about it until you talk to them. Okay. So, just by, persistence, you can catch people who are having a bad experience, but that's more like a trend. But, maybe they don't like the people they're dealing with, or their product is no longer serving their needs, or, change are things that you can see. Change, when there's a new chief marketing officer, when there's a new chief information officer, or a CTO or CFO, there's a reason why there's a new decision maker in that role, and they want to make changes. Or maybe they've opened up a new location, or they just merged with another company, or they are developing a new product. Okay. And some of you are in construction, for example. Well, the whole construction process is there's a long cycle there in terms of funding, permitting, and design. Plenty of opportunity to insert yourself into into projects early on. I used to sell large tonnage air conditioning equipment to mechanical contractors, but they half the battle was really getting spec'd by the engineers, and then the other half was selling to the contractor once they get awarded. There's we did some business with a company that sold a whole bunch of different types of HVAC products. And, the real question is, where's the construction, where's the biggest, increase in construction? Like here in Boston, where I am, you guys are all in Boston, in New England, right? If you happen to be involved in building labs, you're in good shape. Plenty of opportunity. Or new products. If somebody's building a new product, so the NCAB, for example, I have a client that sells logic semiconductors, and they actually their biggest opportunity is in selling the intellectual property that they have. That for logic semiconductors, it's like, okay, you got to insert yourself in when somebody's looking to do your next gen product, and it's a long process. You think your sales cycle is long? Their sales cycle is really long. And then awareness. Okay, where are their opportunities? Like, so I don't know if the advanced polymer folks are here or not, but there's on your website, obviously COVID and gloves was an opportunity for you guys. But what's happening out there regulatory wise, or what's happening with the economy? There's a, like, for example, going back to the circuit boards, there's a governmental effort to bring more semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States because of the logistics problems that were created. And is that an opportunity? Okay, so you follow I had a client that did embedded manufacturing, and they had a marketing person who was out there fishing and catching people all over the world, and it was a 5-step process for them to design the computer for their clients, and then payday was are they going to actually manufacture that product? And they would make the computers and ship them to their customers. And they weren't getting to step 5, payday. So, we struck a deal with Intel. Those guys are running around looking for, okay, who's building a new computer? And, and started to work with those people. And all of a sudden, the leads start coming over the transom. And, or, the federal government investing in transportation. So is that an opportunity for, you geophysical folks where there's investment? We in Massachusetts just passed a law where they're going to tax all the millionaires, and that money's supposed to go to schools and transportation. Okay, is that an opportunity for you? And so, there's a world of free information out there that will help you to really understand what's happening out there. But your best resource is your customers. But the government throws out a lot of data. There's industry specific publications. There's, you can use the World Wide Web and or if you deal with larger companies, you can, go to the SEC EDGAR database. If you deal with startups, when private equity companies invest, they have to do a Form D on the EDGAR database. Other salespeople can be a good reference, and business directories and LinkedIn. You can get a lot of information from LinkedIn, or the paid for information services like the S&P or Thomson Reuters or other research sites if you have a budget for things like that. So really your marketing plan, what is really based on who is it that you're going after, and being real specific, and then really knowing what they want and why, so that you can perfect the dialogue that becomes your marketing strategy and your prospecting dialogue that will get the attention of people and get them on the phone. And it has to be highly differentiated so you stand out for your competition. And then how are you going to deliver those messages to get those phone calls? And what's the action plan? But it gives you the opportunity to qualify them for a meeting, okay? And again, a lot of times what happens is if you're out there in a lot of different markets, then you really don't have any strong penetration in any area that you can grow in. And so it's always better to be a big fish in a little pond, because you get invited to swim in other ponds, versus being in a lot of little ponds where you don't really have any market penetration to leverage, okay? So the first step is, who will you go after, okay? And some of you, that's very specific. So some, for example, maybe just, the federal government is your real target, and it's different divisions of the Defense Department, for example. But a lot of you are in all different kinds of industries or markets. And so take a minute and write down 2 specific markets where you think you have the best opportunity right now. Okay, and try to be as specific as possible. It could be an industry vertical, or like construction, or it could be defense, aerospace. But write down 2, or it could be how they use your product, what the application is, or it could be how they go to market, where they what's their buying patterns, or it could be where they're located geographically, or it could be the size of the business. So it could be customers that are within a certain range of revenue or number of employees. Okay, so take a minute and just pick 2 specific markets. I'm going to give you a couple minutes.
So I've got here existing bills 1,200, and then my annual bills is 180 a month, and I've got mortgage 1. The gas and electric 300.
Yeah.
Is that both gas and electric?
Yeah. I think you'd be all right with that.
Water 100.
Yeah.
Council tax 150.
There's somebody that's talking in the background. If you could mute yourself if you're not asking a question about the.
No, I mean, that big house over there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're quite high.
Yeah,
Low down the list.
next door's low.
I think I'm going to be quite high up.
Yeah.
That is.
Umbrella HR.
TBS
Oh.
£100. Home insurance 21.
Get a deal for 30 quid a month.
Oh, okay, there it is. Thank you. All right. Do you need more time? Let's debrief a little bit. Let's see. David, unmute. What did you put down? David Winovich? No? How about Tony?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, what'd you put down, Tony?
Well, we're primarily in an existing market, to the tier 1 DoD suppliers. So it'd be the Lockheed's, Raytheon's, Boeing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That market is pretty sad.
Yeah.
Sell.
Okay, and are you then focused not necessarily geographically in people that in proximity to New Hampshire, or that doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't matter. We have our primary market is in the Boston metro area, but that can easily be expanded. The dynamics of the market has no boundaries, and it's the uniqueness there though is there's no foreign competition. It's all within. It has to be made in America.
Yeah, good. So tier 1, those are easy. You know who they are, right? It's the tier 2s and tier 3s that are less known, more obscure. And so maybe the tier 1 folks are, yeah, we need that, but then they push you over to somebody else who they're working with, or you team up with other companies, right, to go after some business. Does that happen?
Primarily, we focus on the market, the sales area. The biggest risk with that is that, for example, we built parts to the F-35 for Lockheed Martin.
Mm-hmm.
But because of our proximity, it's built in Fort Worth, Texas, and all their major suppliers are in Fort Worth, or in Dallas area. So it's So we do prototyping, and
Mm,
then
mm,
that was some of the past people in the management area who didn't understand that market. I've been in the
Ah.
Department in DoD business for over 45 years.
Okay, great. How about Travis? What'd you put down?
So our major
Travis?
focuses are more on the like the pharmaceutical side of things, especially with how that's been increasing.
Yeah.
For us, um, our primary like employees and stuff are all mainly in production, and so we have a smaller sales team. So for this year, we're going to be targeting more of just the Boston area, because that's more manageable for us with our feet on the ground type of thing, rather than traveling everywhere.
Right. Yeah. But you have regional people too, don't you? You have regional salespeople, and
We
you
have
yeah.
we have one outside salesperson, but for the most part, it's either direct end users or distributors that we're dealing with.
Okay. And how about geophysical? Um, I know Peter is there, Peter and Michael, either of you?
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah, our products are geared towards primarily infrastructure. That could be, buildings, roads, bridges, underground, utilities, that type of thing.
Yep.
One of our primary markets here in the United States, we sell globally, but one of our primary markets here in the United States is investigating imaging concrete structures like buildings, for example. So one of our prime target markets is a company that does concrete cutting and coring or sawing, penetrating the concrete. And it's an excellent fit for us because what we do is provide images of any obstructions that they might encounter. So
Yep.
it matches up really well for them. They in large part have seen it on bigger projects. It creates there's a safety value to it. There's an efficiency value to it. And then they can also generate revenue with it. So there's a lot of, positives from that segment for us.
Yeah. And I was talking to Michael before, and part of that is really, dealing with engineers, but a lot of times it's really the contractors that you're after, then sounds like.
Yeah.
And you can really identify who they are, which is great. And we were talking before with Dustin. Dustin, you said that you're more B2B, and so are you? What'd you put down, Dustin?
Well, I mean, existing markets are definitely retail, lighting, specialty stores that sell higher end lighting fixtures for residential. I think that's our, where 90% of our business comes from. It also, 75% of our business comes from New England geographically. Obviously, we're like in New England, so we can reach out and kind of touch them from home. We do have 9 regions of the country where we have independent sales reps that work with our showrooms in those parts of the country. I think some emerging markets for us are directly to interior designers and exterior designers, working with people on renovating their homes. Builders would be probably a newer market that we could potentially target, because if they're building higher end homes and not putting just contractor grade light fixtures that you buy at Home Depot for 30 or 50 bucks a piece, we might be able to gain some business directly from them. And obviously in any retail sales, I think you have to consider the Amazon effect, where people buy stuff online and they get it in 2 days. That's been a challenge for us because our lead times fluctuate with demand because we make everything to order.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's your target, Dustin. I mean, but you've just identified very different markets. So, for example, last year we did business with a company that sold kitchen appliances and bathroom appliances to high-end multi-family construction developers. Okay. And they sold a lot of it. And so they had showrooms in areas, they were in Park City, Utah, so in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and really cool places that I wish I was out visiting them there now, but they, these developers are building really high-end homes and multi-family construction, and they sell a lot of those things. And that's a completely different market than going to so I had clients that did cabinetry, and they designed kitchens. So they sold a lot of cabinets. So the people making the cabinets were selling to them, and they sold through these designers. Well, my client was the designer. They got their business from interior designers, right? The interior designers were hired by the families to design the kitchen. They really brought them in to do the kitchen design. So, how people buy and who you're going after is a real important. That's why we're doing this.
That's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge selling to the showrooms specifically, because we kind of talked about at the beginning, getting to the decision maker. One of the challenges that we have is we can talk to the showroom owner and they'll put us up on the wall and they'll understand the value of our product, but they have salespeople on the showroom floor, and the level of training that they get in our specific product, or how comfortable they are selling our product to the customer, the consumer that walks in, is really the challenge. So it's almost a reverse of what you said, but we have to educate those people so that they look our way when they have an opportunity, when the customer walks in. And that's been a challenge, because the showrooms, they don't necessarily compensate their people by commission or whatnot. They pay them an hourly rate, and so they don't really care what they sell, or they sell whichever manufacturer is offering them a spiff or something like that, or the one that they feel most comfortable with. So those are some challenges in our showroom business. Plus the internet has affected those specialty sales, and not the high end, like people building houses in Jackson Hole where they hire a designer and the designer procures
exactly
the whole FF&E, I think it's called, for that project. They're coming in on Saturday and they want to buy a new light for their door or their front door, and then they're like, well, let me show you this one. So those are some of the.
And that's why we're doing this, right? So, somebody who's buying on Amazon, I'm not sure that's what you're after. Somebody who's walking into Home Depot and looking at rows and rows of lights, is that your target? But if you have dealers, so let's just take Yale Electric, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Yale Electric, but I would think an entity like that might have salespeople, and the salespeople might not be just sitting in a showroom waiting for somebody to walk in the door. They may have people who know contractors. They may have people that know interior designers, and they're proactively going after projects. Or maybe they have people who have relationships with toll brothers building hundreds and hundreds of homes, somewhere. And I'm not saying that's what you want to do, but this is what we want to think about. Okay. And who is it ultimately what home do you want your product in? And how do you get to that market? And so I think that's why this is a really good exercise. How about, let's see, Thomas O'Ryan, what did you put down?
Sorry, Ken, did you call on me?
Yeah, what
Yeah,
did
so-
you list?
Yeah, I listed, I really focused more on which products will give us the best
Yeah.
penetration into our markets, and that's either our existing customer markets, new customers, or our channel partners. We're in the physical security space.
Yeah.
And we started out with a particular product line that really, gave us our foothold in the space. And then over the past few years, we've developed some new products that not as many people know the story behind those, or, know about those products. So I think that that's our biggest opportunity to make an impact is with these new products. And that goes, regardless of vertical, which is why I'm very interested in going that route.
Okay, but still at the end of the day, the question is who's going to buy it and how does that procurement happen? So
Yeah, so we've got several channels. We've got the ability to sell directly. We've got channel partners that some people even white label our products. They take it and sell it themselves. We've got manufacturers, rep firms around the country that know people that we don't know, that have been established in places for years and years. So getting them up to speed on the products and how to position the products. We got marketing campaigns going on to broadcast out, like you talked about, LinkedIn and all kinds of other places to create awareness of the product. We're doing proof of concepts with major corporations. We're doing a little bit of that. We're meeting with, I think for your person you were talking to before, we meet with consultants and design engineers and people to try to get on the front end of these projects to be specified.
Yep.
So, that's something that I think some manufacturers forget about. If you can check your centers of influence and see, who knows, like you said, some of these people in these warehouse, in these store environments may know the designers and the contractors and the people that are doing these things. Use your centers of influence to meet those people and make them aware. So when they're specifying these multi-million-dollar homes, they're plugging your stuff in the design process right up front. So then when the contractors are reaching out to buy the stuff, they're coming right to you to get their quotes.
yeah, yep.
So we do a lot of that already. We're a pretty mature sales organization. We are building up our rep firms around the country because we don't have the resource to have everyone direct. We can't have 50 salespeople direct around the country. So we're relying on people who have been in the industry for many, many years, have relationships that we don't have, that can uncover and introduce and get things, sparked up for us so that
Right.
we can amplify our efforts.
Absolutely. And so that's great because you now then have your regional sales folks or your technical applications folks that can support that. Okay?
That's right.
And so it's really a matter of hitching the right horse in the areas where there's opportunity. But then again, going back to one step is like, okay, where is the construction? What is the construction? What is the market opportunity for you? Because at your level, at a mature business like you have with the resources you have, is okay, how do you assess, are you using Dodge reports or how do you know?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, things like that. That's just one example to try to really determine what is the market opportunity, and then how well are you penetrating that or covering that with your independent reps, because that's always the challenge. And And then how do you support that with your marketing and with your regional folks going out and, dividing and conquering with relationships
Yeah.
and working together with them? That is the right approach for sure. Okay. Let's see, who else? How about Taylor or Jeffrey? Are you guys there? The Stonewall? No? Did I miss anybody? There's a big list. Anybody else that I did not call on? I apologize. But I think, it's a good conversation. And, so what we've been talking about up to this point is really the internal part of the analysis, which is really what markets are you going after and what is the need? What's the customer need there? And how does that match up with what you're really good at doing? Okay. Then there's the whole other external part of the analysis and what's happening in your customers' markets or the markets that you operate in. And technology affects everybody's business. I already told you how technology has affected my business in sales, with marketing automation and sales enablement. And it's crazy how much technology has affected my business. But you guys really are the disruptors in a lot of ways in the markets that you operate, because your solutions really are technical solutions within the markets that you you operate, or how people buy. Again, someone brought up Amazon. Okay, so how much if you don't think buying patterns are a factor, well, go ask the CEO of Border Books. Okay, but how are people buying? Like, so let's take trade shows, for example. Okay, how many trade shows did you go to in 2000? Not too many, right? So, but a lot of manufacturers, go to market. It's a channel that manufacturers typically employ. Okay, now it's all coming back. So, it's as an example, public perception. Okay, some of you are in the business of security. And so every time there's a breach or, I think on the news today, there's always something with regards to security it's prevalent today and it's all around us. Target customer groups, that's really what we're talking about here today. And then basic customer desires, what is it that customers really want? And then the economy, economy affects everybody's business. And then it's like, how many do you have in your customer base already? You already have a penetration there that you can leverage, or how many prospects are there? How much, are there a lot? Is it a robust marketplace for you to penetrate and get more? How competitive is it? And then, we also talked about political climate and some of the regulatory, where the government's spending money or legal action that provides opportunities. I had clients that, during COVID that, janitorial supplies. You think they benefited? I had a client that did medical device manufacturing, and a lot of the manufacturing, the traditional manufacturing for orthopedics or for whatever else they were making went away, but they started making COVID test kits, and they couldn't get enough people to do the work. So what's happening out there that are opportunities. Okay, so that if you really evaluate the markets, and the reason why I asked you to pick two was because you don't want to be relying on just one. But we try to get our clients working up to 4. Okay, between 2 and 4. 2 is okay. You could have 4, and maybe you're working 2 and you find, hey, you know what? Number 1, we're getting a lot of traction there. Number 2 is kind of slower than I thought. Let's pull in number 3. So you can focus and then aim and adjust. And the other thing is, where to go to find them. You know, I think I mentioned the software company that does they have a lot of different markets they can operate in. One of their strong markets is in medical, okay? But within medical, there's the insurance companies, there's the medical, hospital groups and hospital and medical organizations, and there's pharmaceuticals. And those are three completely different markets, and where they go to penetrate and get decision makers is different, and the message is different. Okay, so if you're really focusing, you can get your messaging much more specific, and what you're talking about out there in social media, in your marketing, in your conversations at trade shows, people, it's more relevant, and people take notice of that. And who takes notice of that? Well, these, somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Thomas, centers of influence. These are people who also know the decision makers that you want to meet, and you can collaborate with them or structure an agreement, so they're channel partners, so that they're, getting a piece of the action. Okay, any questions about that before we move on? Okay.
Hey, Ken, this is Mark
Yeah.
Stevens with Premier Expeditors.
Hi.
Where I work in a more of a service industry, as compared to manufacturing setting, I'm looking at trying to figure out the marketing part of it, where I'm looking for about anybody who needs help with their shipping process.
Yeah.
How do I try to narrow that down to 2 to 4 categories so I can stay consistent in my approach to selling that service?
Yeah. So do you do less than truckload, or you do full truckload?
I
or
can
you
do any of it.
Okay. Well, so then that's the question, is where is the best opportunity, that need? Okay. And part of it might be, where you're, currently having a strong business. So what aspects, if you're doing, land, sea, and air, for example, okay, where are you seeing the more activity, and are there other targets that are similar to the applications that you're currently getting, and there's more activity there? I would, but right now, logistics has gotten a lot of publicity, and it's been a real big challenge for just about everybody. And so I think that really in itself presents a big opportunity. The other thing is, it really it depends on the geographic area. So I think you're really operating in a Northeast region. Is that right?
I can operate nationwide. I'm trying to focus, my business, New England and New York. I have
Yeah.
customers across the country, but I'm trying to build my business coming out of New England and or into New England, however the customer would need that service, whether it was inbound or outbound freight.
Yeah. Yes. And so would you say manufacturing is a strong market for you?
Yes, I think that's kind of where at least in my mind, that would be where I would focus on. Yeah.
Okay. And then I would, so if you were looking at which industry segments really need a lot of inventory management, then and need to stock things, then that would maybe be an area of focus. So it could be, let's just take food, for example. You know, I used to sell energy performance contracting services, and there was a company up at Brattleboro, Vermont, that CNS Wholesale Foods, and they just had these massive warehouses of food. You know, some frozen, some not, and I don't know if they were trucking or distributing their food to their customers or not. But you know, they're I think you could look at segmenting your markets by industry verticals or segments within those. So the vertical would be manufacturing, and then segments within manufacturing where they have to move a lot of products from point A to point B.
Right.
Construction, for example, might be good, you know, and then it really depends on what's happening out in the market too. Also, size of the business. I think you want to take a look at that, you know, because, you know, maybe it's not a enterprise level billion-dollar corporation, but it's certainly not a, you know, a one warehouse smaller business, you know, that you're after. So you could classify them by size. Is that helpful?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure. Okay, so the next piece really then is what's going to get their attention, okay? And, you know, you have to take a look at really, what do they need? What are their pains? Because something that their pain that they're experiencing is something that's top of mind to them, and that's what's going to get their attention. And, you know, the pains are in the area where you really help them. Okay, so are you helping them with operations, to being more efficient, or are you helping them to reduce costs, or are you helping them to make a better product, or are you helping them to get more customers? That's what we do. Okay, so where are the areas you're helping them? But the dialogue, the messaging is really, you know, discussing the problems they're having within those areas versus how you're helping them. Because once you get their attention with the discussion on the problems that they want to get out of, then you earn the right to really tell them how you help people. Okay, and so, you know, you want to, you know, that's the question, that's the challenge. How do you really present something that, you know, I'll bet, you know, you are experiencing this, am I right? And you know, engaging them in a conversation that would be around those problems they're trying to fix. Okay. And then building your list. So, you know, how do you, you know, get the contact information so that you have a big enough target list of net new prospects, and then prioritizing them as to who you're really going after. Okay, so there's different levels of quality in the services, from the, you know, more you know, you buy a list, a static list, or you subscribe to be able to go in there, like companies like Data Axle. So Info USA merged with another company that formed Data Axle, or Info Free, or National Data Group. These are companies that, you know, they maintain lists, they sell the lists, but they don't really keep, it's not typically kept up to date. Maybe it's 20% bad data, but it's a lower price point, right? So you can buy a list for a couple $100, which becomes out of date the day after you buy it, but still it's a contact list. The companies aren't really all going to go out of business. The people might not be up to date, and or you subscribe. If you subscribe, so you can go in and you can download data whenever you need it, then it'll tend to be, you know, more up to date. You know, I don't know, maybe $1,000 for an annual subscription or something. And Seamless is more, you know, as you go down on this list, these are companies that actually scrape the web or have a lot more resources to scrub their list and make them current. And so Seamless is you know, I haven't priced them in a while, so maybe that's more in the $2,500 range for an annual subscription. But they're an interesting company, and they integrate with LinkedIn. If you want emails, there's some lower price point options like hunter.io. It's like a few $100. And then you get into like Dun & Bradstreet merged with Hoover's years ago. And then they went out and bought, you know, different companies that were scraping the web to get more, you know, different sources of data from the web and from PR. And so that tends to be a lot more accurate, but it's more like 7,000 or 8,000. And then Zoom Info, which is the 10,000-pound gorilla, and they have like 250 people whose only exist just to scrub their list. And then they get people to, you know, subscribe for free. So they scrape their email signatures in their email database, so that, and then Zoom Info can give you a lot of market intelligence information too, but it's more like 15,000 to 25,000. And then LinkedIn, you can get a lot of information from LinkedIn. And if you subscribe to Navigator, then you can get better data, you know, like company size and things like that. But so a lot of different resources for building your list. Okay, any questions about that? And then once you've, you know, just really determined what your target market strategy is, now you can put together your marketing plan and your prospecting plan. And, you know, I really encourage you to look at both, because your marketing really should be supporting your prospecting strategy. And, you know, how are they working together? So, you know, are you using direct response mechanisms in B2B? Really, it's more contact marketing, where the direct response are your sales reps following up, and or social media. You know, I mean, I use LinkedIn daily. You know, even in B2C, maybe it's more Facebook or Instagram, but and typically, if you're cold prospecting, it's a combination of email, mail, phone, and social that you're using. And so how is the marketing supporting that? And then prospecting. So, excuse me, take a look at this list. And what I want you to do is write down which channels are sources for leads for you now. Okay, so only pick, you know, I'm not suggesting you should be working all these channels. You're salespeople, or if you're not the salesperson, you're the manager. You know, what or your distribution companies, what are they doing to prospect? Okay, where do their leads come from? And so write down which channels are sources for leads for you, and then carve up your percentage of leads. You know, so let's say 50% of your leads come from existing client referrals, put a 50 there. If 20% come from cold calls, put a 20 there. Okay, and if you're not getting leads from any source, then don't write it down. So go ahead and do that exercise. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, because we only have 15 minutes, I'm not gonna really debrief with everybody, but does anybody did anybody learn anything from that exercise or have any questions or comments?
It's certainly an interesting exercise. I sort of feel like existing client referrals, SEO, SEO is search engine optimization, trade shows and resellers would maybe be 20% each for us. And then, probably a half a dozen of those other categories would be, just a lower percentage of that.
Yeah, and so you have to look at also the quality of leads you get from those different channels. So, existing client referral is going to be high on the return on invested time. Okay, it's up high on the pyramid. Why? Because somebody is recommending they talk to you, and it's a person that they know and trust, and it usually is a well teed up introduction. Okay, versus SEO, where somebody may be just kicking the tires and curious, and they need to be qualified. And a lot of times, think about the pyramid, the buyer's pyramid that I showed you. Okay, so maybe it's a lower level person that you get hitched to. And I mentioned that one of my markets besides manufacturers is software, and I have 3 clients. I mentioned one already. But they sell at enterprise level, so these are billion-dollar corporations, and an executive, a CXO from a billion-dollar corporation's not searching the web. They're not, so they need to have business development reps that are actually doing outbound prospecting for the account executives. And the account executives need to be, very experienced in navigating a multiple decision maker decision, and otherwise they're not going to catch people high enough. So I have like another client that does a user interface for SAP, and their marketing people catch people, and they have meetings every week, but they're people at a lower level of these big corporations that maybe in one location. So they make a small sale for one location, the need there. And what we're working is getting them to be more proactive to get inserted at a much higher level at people that are looking across other different areas. And so then the sales end up being bigger to begin with, and then they can cross-sell into those big corporations a lot faster at that level. So trade shows are great because you have a room full of people, but it's like what's that conversation and how you setting yourself up to really find qualified people quickly and then follow up, because those leads go cold really fast. And then resellers are great but you have to hitch the right horse. So yeah, so it's really. And then some of you have account managers, and it's typical that manufacturers will have justifiably, because you have customers that need to be paid attention to, but account managers have to spend a lot of time taking care of customers. Do they have time to go be proactive and get new, or do they know how to do that? Or should you have other resources? So common, and so the other thing is the return on invested time, because when you're operating in cold calling, typically the return on invested time is around 2%. So you got to talk to like 50 people in order to close one deal. Direct mail, if you're just sending out, a large bulk mailing and you're not following up, the best you can expect is maybe 3%. But if you're being very targeted and you follow up with everyone in a B2B environment, you have the opportunity to do that. So don't send 1,000, send 25 and call everyone. Or doing speaking, so some of you, like again, in the construction, going in and, people that I've worked with in that area, doing dog and pony shows at engineers. I have a distributor that sells pumps, and in the new construction marketplace, they spend a lot of time with design engineers, and then they track how many specs in the Boston area are they named. They actually track that. And then when they get spec'd, 90% of the time they win the deal eventually. Networking, where you can go places, and that trade show falls into that category, where there's a room full of people and you talk to people, you can qualify them and decide who to follow up with. And then referrals, or having those alliance strategic channel partners that are on an ongoing basis introducing you to opportunities. And then quality introductions, where you're there physically when you meet them or when they meet them. And when you're operating up there, that's 95% return on invested time. Okay. But common prospecting mistakes are just relying on passive only, right? So if, like my example of mailings, if you just do a mailing, you don't follow up anyway, that's passive. If you're calling everyone, you're making it active. Or being too dependent on a single channel, or not devoting time to actively prospect on a continuous basis, or having a plan, or tracking and adjusting to the effectiveness of your sources. Okay. And then the last piece here is really, might be able to get into tracking if we have time, but once you've defined your markets, and then you've got your go-to-market strategy, so you get your marketing plan and your prospecting plan, now you can say, okay, who are the people that are going to execute the plan? Okay. And, do you have, some of you do have direct sales representatives. So these are account executives, but they tend to be higher priced. And, if you're in an enterprise level marketplace, you need those people, right? But, how's their time being spent? Because if they're spending a lot of time trying to prospect and getting meetings in those lower return on invested time activities, maybe what you need to support them with an outbound sales development rep, or some sort of external resource that are driving leads for them, or do you need account managers, or have account managers, because your best opportunity is in selling more stuff to your existing customers? And or is it that you are driving, somebody mentioned SEO, all right? So do you get a large volume of inbound leads, and what you need is somebody to, follow up with those and qualify them, because those are going to be low, market qualified leads, not sales qualified leads. Then so you need somebody at a much lower price point. If an outbound development rep, or a telemarketer, or an inbound market response rep, these are lower priced people that you can train. But it's more economical. But it really depends on how much time needs to be expended in doing these different activities, and does it make sense to have somebody doing that full time? Or is it your independent reps, distributors, or sales agents? And then how are you going to support them? Okay. But again, to determine that, it's really, all right, what's the market? How much time needs to be expended to penetrate those prospects, to get the market share we expect? And then where do we need more resources? Okay. And it really depends on where the need is in terms of how time needs to be expended. Okay. Questions about that? Okay. And then the last piece is tracking. What do you need to track to determine, okay, we've made some market projections based on the segments we picked, and how many new clients do we need to bring in, or how much more business are we getting from our existing customers? Okay, so you've got that forecast. It's a real forecast. It's not just 20%. And what's the formula? Okay, so how many deals, how many new clients, how many sales, how many closes do we need? What are the sales? That you've got a sales projection. Break it, how much is that each month? How much is that each week? Okay, so how many deals is it? Well, in order to do that, you need to know, well, what's the average deal size? And sometimes there's a combination. There's base hits, doubles, triples. We don't want to be home run hitters, but how many of each type are we going to get? Okay, and so that's part of the formula, was really the dollar per sale. And then how many proposals need to be generated, or presentations meetings do we need to have? And how many first appointments on new opportunities do we need to have? And how many with existing customers, and how many with net new prospects? And then how many contacts do we need to make in order to get those meetings? And then if you're cold calling, right, what's the dial to contact ratio, or how many leads do we need, and which channels are they going to come from? Okay. And so, you know, these, as you're tracking all these things, it gives you the information that you need in order to assess, is the formula actually playing out, and what's the efficiency of our sales activities, sales people, right? So if you've got reps that aren't hitting their monthly quota, let's say, right? Why is that? You know, look at, right, how many deals did they close? Because if they close the amount of deals that you expected them to close and they're not hitting their sales, well, maybe it's the size of the deals they're getting. So why is that? Is it the people they're going after? Is it the projects that they're addressing? Or do you need to change your formula so now they need to get maybe 50% more closes? But something needs to change, right? But if they're not getting the closes, if they're not closing deals, then okay, how many proposals are they doing? How many of their deals, opportunities really are getting to the point where they're doing a proposal or doing a quote, or however your sales process works? You know, are they doing the proposals? Because if they're doing a lot of proposals and not closing deals, well, then that's where you need to focus, right? So, you know, are they really qualifying these deals properly? Are they proposing, making their presentations to the decision maker or not? Or are they just tagging somebody else as their salesperson to go sell it internally? Are they actually presenting these proposals? Or are they just sending them over and hoping that, you know, somebody buys and then they disappear on it, right? But if they're not getting proposals out, then how many first meetings are they having on new opportunities? Right? Because if they're having a lot of first meetings and they don't turn into proposals, then, you know, there's getting involved in a lot of stalls or objections. And so how are they conducting those meetings, and are they really qualifying the deals properly? Okay. But if they're not getting first meetings on new opportunities, then okay, are they making contact? Are they making contact with these prospects, and how many? Because if they're not making contact, then it's okay, what are they doing to produce leads? So you can go from the top down and evaluate, where is somebody getting stuck, and or how efficient are they in their sales activity or in executing on the sales process. All right, I'm going to skip this stuff, sales process, and just open it up for questions. We just have a couple of minutes. Before I do that, Eric had mentioned a couple of ways that they help the manufacturers in New Hampshire with sales. One is they do a collaborative, and what it involves is there's a full day of you know, we want to bring in like 4 companies to participate minimum, could be more, but you get a full day working on the sales strategy. So we would, you know, take a deeper dive into this. Who are you going after? What's your prospecting plan? What's your marketing plan? How are you getting more referrals? How are you tracking things? And what really is that sales process? But then we will get more into the structure and the size of your sales force. And then how are you managing them and how are you coaching them? Okay, so that's the first day on strategy. And then I go to each individual company for a full day. This is where I can be working with your sales team and helping them, where we take a deeper dive into the prospecting, the referrals, and the sales process. What are they doing in their sales meetings? Okay, and then you come back for a half-day debrief. And this is like dirt cheap, basically, depending on how many companies you have, but it's typically less than $3,000 per company to participate in this. And then there's also a custom program where we spend a lot more time with you that, Eric can tell you about. Any questions? Eric, you there?
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay. So I already told them about the collaborative.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, get to the questions. Anybody?
I have a question. This is Donna with NCAB Group.
Hi,
I
Donna.
have a lot of reps and I have direct sales folks, but
Yeah.
so with this program, is there a limit to how many of my sales staff directs that can be on this?
No
'Cause I get them
limit.
across the country.
Yep. So the
Okay.
first meeting would be more like managers and executives. Okay.
Okay.
But still no limit, but not your salespeople. When I come
Okay.
to your office, it would be, no limit. Whoever is actually out there on the street doing the job. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. You have a lot of account managers, right? You got like 20 account managers, don't you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, across
you're-
the USA. Yeah. Locally, I have about 7 in my New Hampshire office.
Oh, you're okay in your office. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So we could work with them if you want, or whoever's doing the more outbound sales. Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay. No, this is great. It's because to me, it's all about asking the right questions, to the right people, qualifying it. And if it's not qualified, next. And I think a lot of salespeople get stuck with that next. You know what I mean? Letting it go if it's not the right fit.
Right. Yes. And you're doing the circuit boards, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so if somebody needed new circuit board, or do your existing customers, when's the next gen product going to be developed, and inserting yourself in early. But I would guess that your sales process is quite long, because you need to design it, you need to test it, and then you need to tweak it again, right?
Yeah, to me, it's the same sales cycle as kind of contract manufacturing, right? Because that board goes in an assembly, right?
So it's designed already when you get involved.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So if you insert yourself in early when it's being designed, then that gives you a leg up.
Correct.
Yeah. And so that makes it interesting. Yeah. Great. Any other questions?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
I'm gonna stop the recording.